All right, y'all, today is Thursday, and we've made some good progress. Yesterday, I was able to get the Arduino code refactored, so it is now structured the way that I want it to be, at least initially now going forward. So it's going to be much easier to update and work with, especially having the AI work with it. It's not going to take nearly as long for updates to get implemented, and it's all going to be good. It's going to be easier to work with, so happy about that. Then the next thing I started working on was implementing the serial protocol. There were a couple of things that I didn't include in the refactoring, not significant, but it was the old serial implementation. So like previously, I would be able to hit the enable Wi-Fi, disable Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, check for updates, and it would send the command via serial to the host computer using the old protocol. But I wanted to update to the new protocol and just like get everything restructured differently for that because it wasn't implemented initially with the like full scope of the protocol. So I started working on that. I actually made pretty quick progress with it, which surprised me. So my goal was just to get Bluetooth working, at least the Bluetooth button working, to where it would send the correct serial command to the Linux host, and if the Linux host sent a command to the MCU or the microcontroller, then that also would respond appropriately. So in pretty short order, I mean, it was probably 30 minutes to an hour, I had the Bluetooth switch to where it would toggle and it would send the correct commands to the host. I could send commands from the Linux host to the microcontroller for either like enable or disable Bluetooth, or there's an error message like connecting to the network. Those were a couple that I tested with, and it would respond on the microcontroller on the screen correctly. It would toggle the Bluetooth switch on the screen on and off, and then eventually I synced it so that the little Bluetooth icon in the top task tray or header would come on and on, or go blue or go dark when it toggled the Bluetooth. So all of that is now working as far as like the initial testing back and forth, getting the serial communications to sync up and making sure that the microcontroller is parsing the JSON data that's being sent over. That seems to be good. Seems like we have a good initial implementation. The next thing that I tried to do was get the host side, the Linux side software, Go software written, like the foundation that's going to basically build out the core forensics processing capability, like all the software that's going to run on the Linux side. I didn't have as much success with that. It seemed like the AI started creating files that didn't make sense to create, and because I had it working previously on my last implementation like a week ago, one that I completely scrapped and started over, but I still have the old code, so maybe I can point it back to that and say, hey, can you use this as a reference for building out like the initial serial communications, because that was working pretty reliably, where it would establish connection, it would check to verify, make sure everything was working. One of the things that I did yesterday was I went back and updated some of my reference documentation, so some of the AI prompting where it is understanding the structure of the code at its current state. So I went in, like when I was done yesterday with getting the refactoring done, I had AI go back through and document the changes that we made, and I had it go through separately and identify all the different properties of the new code structure, what the features were, the capabilities, and then document that out. So that is now updated as a reference, and then I had AI come up with a plan, like worked with it to figure out, to tell it like, this is the process that I want to take to get this serial protocol implemented between the host and the MCU. And so walk through a plan to come up with that. And so I have that step-by-step plan that's built out that I then fed back into my VS Code for context. And there might be something that is conflicting in there. I'm not sure. So I'm going to revisit those files just to make sure that everything is as accurate as it needs to be, or if there's updates that I can make to make it clearer on how I want to proceed, because it seemed like the AI was just getting confused by the end, and it just wasn't working. So, but there was other weird things happening. So there might have been an issue with Copilot. It would try to create new files that already existed, and even if I gave it, said reference the code base and like look at this, it still might not see some of those files. So there's something weird going on. It could have just been that I had been hammering it away with this AI for hours and hours on end. So maybe there's just some type of fatigue built in. I don't know. But either way, I closed everything out, shut the system down, restarted it for today, and we're going to kick that process off. I need to get the serial protocol implemented on the host side so that there's actually like a core main software package running that can communicate with the microcontroller. So it's not a manual process on my part on the host side for testing purposes. So get that started, and we'll see where we end up. I got some documentation that I need to go through for the attorney. The incorporation documents were submitted to the state of Delaware, so that'll take a couple of days to process and get through. But there's other questions on like issuing shares in the first directors meeting and stuff like that. So or the first board meeting. So that stuff needs to get answered. So I got to go through that today and get those off to the attorney. And then other than that, it's just, basically coding and getting this implemented today. So that's where we're at. I think we're in a good place. One of these times I need to go through and actually talk about how I'm using AI in my workflow from a business development perspective as well as a coding perspective, because I think I've got it figured out as to how it should be implemented, at least for a solopreneur or startup type of business up to like maybe even a mid-sized business. I don't know, but it's really cool. It's actually incredible. I can't believe we're living in this timeline. It's kind of mind-blowing. It's a lot to manage, and what I'm finding now is that I have to read way more than I was expecting. So like I have AI do a ton of like research and help with prompting and like do all this stuff. It's providing tons of feedback, but I have to read that feedback to make sure it's good or before I feed it back into context documents and things like that. So I'm spending a lot of time reading as it's part of the process of managing the reference material that the AIs have so that they can then provide better guidance and context for development and marketing and all that stuff. That's kind of been one of the things that I've noticed is I just have to spend way more time reading than I would typically like to. But I think that's part of it. It's like now I'm largely managing AI, different AI players and which AI tools and capabilities are the best to get the results. And so it's a lot of time like managing those, making sure that they are as informed as they can possibly be to get the best results. And then I do have to sit down with them and actually step through like, let's work on this code, let's go, here's the objective, and help build that out as well, and then do some troubleshooting and stuff like that. But yeah, it is very much like at this point I am managing AI systems to build out the operating platform of this company, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. So I'm really enjoying it, and we'll see where it goes. But that's what I got today. So thanks for checking in. Catch you later.